What's the best car you can buy for $10,000 to take through some curvy roads? Let's talk about that. This isn't going to be your typical YouTube video where someone borrows a car, drives it 0.5 of a mile, or goes online and then tells you that they're an expert on everything. This is different because I personally own these cars. I've owned that one for about 2 years and that one for about 1.5 years. Now, we really like to go do a lot of mountain roads in the summertime, and summertime's upon us. So at this point, I think I'm going to sell one of these cars and put all of the money into another one. So we bought both cars up here today to kind of run them through the roads back to back and see which one's kind of the favorite and which one I'm going to dump a whole bunch of money into. So I'm probably going to take it through the mountain roads and just kind of feel how I enjoy it. And then I'm going to hand the keys off to Donnie, which is a semi-professional amateur, somewhat of a race car driver, maybe. And he's going to put these cars through their paces, and then we're going to see what kind of time he can get out of them from a performance side versus a just enjoy the car side. And then we're going to figure out which one of these cars is getting sold at the end of the day. It should be a fun time. Thanks for watching. This is my 2007 BMW 335i. Now, when I bought this car about 2 years ago, it had right at 90,000 miles on it. Now we got it up to about 120. We paid right at about $9,000 for it. We put a new radiator in it, new tires, and a few other things, which makes it to where we're right at about the same money for both cars. We're going to see if this thing can dethrone everyone else's favorite budget mountain car. Now, I'm sure there's about half of you at home wondering how I'm trying to compare this 4-seater twin-turbo 335i to that 2-seater Corvette. But the thing about it is in the real world, when you're actually getting to drive them, they're very similar cars in a way. They're both 4-wheel independent suspension, 4-wheel disc brakes, really performance-oriented cars. And when you're not loyal to a brand, because honestly, I love all brands. I think all brands make bad cars. All brands make good cars. The reality is most cars are junk anyways. So every car company has at least one shiner that's an amazing car. To be honest, BMW makes a lot of good cars. I'm not trying to say anything, but this one in particular, this is an amazing car. They did an amazing job with the balance of this car and just how it drives overall. I bought it with the intention of selling it because I got a pretty good deal on it, to be honest. And I was always kind of scared of BMW. I never really owned any of them. But, you know, you hear all the nightmare stories and you get worried, you know, and I'm a pretty mechanically inclined person. But at the same time, you know, you hear the stories. So when I bought this car, I took it to the mountains one time and I went, oh, this car's amazing. Like, this car truly handles fantastic. And the way that the power is delivered with the twin turbos opposed to like a single turbo car is so much more linear, and it just goes. To be honest, my biggest pet peeve with the car is it's so refined in a way that I'm not used to. Like, it's so quiet in here, and the radio's so good that it's easy to just be feeling it that day and not realize, oh, how fast I was just going. That is probably my biggest gripe, which is not a real gripe, is that it's very easy to get a ticket in this car. It is very easy to just be cruising down the road, just feeling it, and then go, oh, wow, wow, double. Okay, let's slow it down a little bit. Don't need the car impounded and to go to jail today. But if your intention that day is to go out and have some fun, it does it so well with so little effort that, I mean, it's incredible. And to be honest, it does all that while being a 4-seater and having creature comforts like heated seats. One of the best radios I've ever heard in a stock car. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't know if I just got the one 335i that was owned by an 80-year-old man that never played this radio, and it's just gold because of that. But that Corvette, and it's older, that Corvette's radio sucks. It gets the job done, you know. It's about like playing with yourself. It'll get the job done, but the second any kind of song comes on that requires any kind of treble or bass whatsoever, you're gonna be ashamed you turned the knob up at all. Now this car, this thing's like the real deal. It's like actually getting to drive a car. The radio in this, no matter what I throw at it, every single genre surrounds you in a way, and it carries the bass so phenomenally that we will find a new song and we'll go out to this car just to listen to it in this car. That's how good this radio is. You compound that on how quiet and smooth this thing is at speed, it makes it very easy to be going, oh Lord, we're gonna get this car impounded today's territory. But it makes it to where you get lost in your own little bubble. I'll be totally honest. Now, how have I forgotten how to use blinkers since I started driving it? Maybe a little bit. Maybe that's just because I'm in my own little bubble. Who actually knows? Now, although I love this car, there's definitely certain things that, like, even I had to explain to the missus, like the steering in this car when you're just in like a parking lot or not moving very quickly does feel very stiff and very responsive, and she didn't like that at first. I was like, no, wait until you actually get it up to a speed, because once you get this car up to a speed, that then it's not a tough steering, but it's kind of a more firm steering, gives you so much feedback that you actually feel like you're connected to the car. To be honest, this is one of the newer cars that I've driven. Well, it's not new, but one of the newer of this era cars that I've driven that just didn't feel like it was a sloppy can of spaghetti, where I was like, I'm turning this thing, I don't know what's happening here. To be honest, this is one of the newer cars that I've driven that you still feel the car, that still feels very analog in the best way, where you actually feel like you're connected to the road and you can predict what the car is going to do. And in a way of, so I enjoy sliding cars around. By no means will I call it drifting, because definitely not good at that, but I very much enjoy trying to slide around corners and sliding cars. Now this car, and most of the time I do it in the rain because I don't have the money to fix cars or the money for tires. This car, when you're sliding it, is so predictable and so good at it, it will make it look like you know what you're doing. Now, the way that it just carries the power through a slide will make it to where you can just carry it as long as you want. To be honest, it's made some of the videos of people drifting BMWs less impressive now that I've done it. The Corvette, the problem with that when you try to slide it is it needs about another 150 horsepower to make that happen, because you start to slide it and it's going very well and it looks very pretty, it's very balanced and very poised until it runs out of power and those tires start to hook. And then once those tires start to hook, you're going in whatever direction you're pointed. And I gotta tell you what, there's been a few times, and by no means am I a professional driver, where that thing hooked and I was sideways doing about 50 miles an hour and she just wanted to go straight. And then it was a dance of going, no, back and forth, which obviously a lot of people are gonna say that's driver skill. I say that car needs about another 150 horsepower just because the tires are so wide on the back that it runs out of power to keep spinning them. So to be honest, if you're looking to have a car to slide a little bit, this is the one for you, because I gotta tell you what, this thing will make you, it'll give you too much confidence in a way of you'll start sliding things that you shouldn't be doing at your level. But it is a great beginner car to start sliding around, especially if you don't have the money like me and you like to do it in the rain, because let's face it, I don't have the money to fix both of these cars. I have way too many projects at the moment, but it's fine. We're fine. Drowning in debt, but fine. So, to be honest, it's going to take a lot. I'm gonna have to drive that Corvette, and it's going to have to be so much better than this car to give up the creature comforts that this car has, because you could get in this car and drive it 8 hours and not be tired. And you know, you're not gonna, actually, I'll rephrase that. You could drive this car in traffic for 6 hours and not be tired. You drive that Corvette in traffic for 45 minutes, you're gonna hate everyone on the road. And it's not a hard car to drive by any means, don't take that wrong, but it's just one of those things where it creaks, it crackles. You'll hear it when we go to drive it. The interior is not as refined. It's not as nice. You know, it is 1990s GM is all I can say. And it's better than some 1990s GM, but it is very much 1990s GM, and it shows. Now, this is a little bit newer car, but the interior is worlds above, just so much above, it's not even funny. And also just the technology that you get with it is pretty amazing. This is a 1999 Chevy Corvette with about 96,000 miles on it. Arguably the reigning champ for everyone and their mother and brother and sister, cousin, Billy. Everyone wants to say, bang for your buck, this is the car to buy for $10,000, the most performance for your money. Now, you do give up a lot of practicalities over a car like that when you're buying a Corvette. So the big question for today is it worth it to have such a performance-oriented car when honestly that BMW does such a good job? And that's what we're going to find out when we take these cars for a ride. Let's go. Now, let's be honest. The C5 Corvette, when it comes to budget performance car, does seem to be the obvious choice. It's the one that everyone's talked about. It's the one everyone loves to, you know, say is the best budget car. But does it really deserve that title is the question. You know, there's a lot of other really good competitive cars out there that could challenge it. The problem is most people that have driven all these cars drive them around the block and then try to give you their opinion, or read a bunch of stuff online and don't actually get to drive it back to back in the mountains. And that's where you actually get to feel the difference, because I've driven both these cars through the mountains probably 30 times a piece, but I've never gotten to drive them back to back on the same exact day. And I gotta tell you, it's amazing how much more you realize when it's the exact same day. And like, you can just, you feel different things that you wouldn't normally feel. To be honest, I love both of these cars, so making this decision of which one to get rid of and which one to, you know, keep and put more money into is definitely a hard one. I wish I could keep both. But the thing about the C5 is, compared to that BMW, the interiors is 1990s GM. That's all I can really say about it. You kind of just have to look out the window. It's not really awful, and some people go way too far and way too over exaggerate. They're not awful, but they're definitely not great. These seats are terrible. The radio is awful. I mean, it's really bad. The radio, and I don't know if I just got the one where the kid just ruined it, but I mean, it can't do any bass, it can't do any treble, it can't do anything. The only thing that the radio can do is be turned off so that you can hear the exhaust, which is amazing. But the thing about the C5 platform is, it is an incredibly balanced car. It is almost a perfect 50-50 weight ratio, which really shows when you're in these mountain roads. And I'm gonna be honest, when we were first coming up here, I didn't really know which one I would be picking. And even throughout the day, it was kind of hard to tell, because if you're going through these roads, and we'll just say hypothetically 80, 90 miles an hour, both of these cars are very good. And honestly, you're kind of nitpicking to try to find differences when both cars are this good. And it's really not until you start getting up into like trying to really push things to that like 100, 110 hypothetical number that you start to really feel a difference in the cars and in the corners. Because if you're just doing a little bit of speed, you honestly, both cars are fantastic. Now, the Corvette definitely does edge it out a little bit when you start kind of getting up there in the speed, and it really does feel a lot more poised and balanced around some of these corners than the BMW did, and I feel a little less scared. Now, to be clear though, the problem is the BMW gives you too much confidence and allows you to do things, and it corrects you a lot. The only downside with the Fed is when you push it to that limit and it says, okay, no more, you are really messing up at that point. Like, you are at a speed that it is very hard to come back from and very hard to correct. And I hope that you have the skill level to recover the car, and that's why you see so many pictures where these things are just scattered into a million pieces, is because it's really hard to find the limit, but once you do, it's way harder to recover from that mess up. And, you know, I take both these cars out in the rain and slide them around a lot because, again, I don't have the money to fix either one of them. So this car is really easy to slide and a lot of fun, but the problem is the BMW slides in a way where you don't feel like you're really hurting the car and like beating on it. This thing, because of how wide the back tires are, you really have to be giving it the beans for it to hold any kind of spin of tires at all. And as soon as it does catch traction, you better be hoping that you're pointed in a direction that you want to go, because if you're not, you're gonna go that way and you're just gonna end up just back and forth. Don't do it in front of people. You're gonna look like an idiot. I mean, I don't know that from personal experience. I'm a very good driver. I would never have that problem, but I've heard you'll look like an idiot. But really, the crazy thing about this car that no one seems to talk about is this thing gets 30 miles to the gallon. Easily. Like, with me driving kind of stupid every now and then. On the way up here on the highway, because we drove it 2 hours to get up here, I got 36 to 38 miles to the gallon. I didn't believe it. I had to go and check it with the gas pump manually because I didn't believe that this car could get that much, because no one talks about it. And like, it's crazy to me that this isn't just the most common commuter car out there ever for that kind of gas mileage. But, you know, there are some downsides compared to that BMW. Oh, that sounds good. It doesn't have back seats. So if you have friends, I don't have this problem. If you have friends, yeah, you don't have a back seat. That's why you just convince your friends to buy a Corvette. That's part of owning a Corvette. It's not a cult, it's just really close to one. So, I mean, you're gonna have to recruit some people anyways, recruit your friends, then everyone has Corvettes, everyone's happy. But if you do need back seats, the BMW is gonna obviously win there for you. But what I will say is, if you're looking for more of a performance style, more closer to a race car that you're gonna build into being something actually on the race car side of things, this is definitely a better starting point than that car. If you're buying it as a secondary toy. Now, if you're buying a car that you want to run errands in, pick up the kids in, and have a better car that you then go to the mountains with on the weekends and have fun, the BMW is your better choice, I would say. Because the reality is, if you have friends and kids, I mean, I don't have this problem, but if you did, you probably want to come home to them, which means you're not going to be pushing these cars to their absolute limits, which means it's going to be very, very debatable on how much you're actually going to get difference-wise. To be honest, the BMW is a very solid choice, and both cars have their pros and cons. Now, this one's basically like putting together Legos. I mean, to be honest, you could leave bolts out. It's not gonna care. It's just still gonna drive. It's still gonna do its thing. I mean, you could tear this whole thing apart, just be like, oh, what's this bolt? And then go do 150 in it. And it's just not gonna care. Now that BMW, it may make you wanna learn German so that you can curse out the engineer that built it. But what I will say is, everything is online and you can figure out how to do all of any repairs on both of these cars, because they both have a huge following, to fix them. The kryptonite though on the C5 is gonna be from the back half of the car. If you don't have a lift and you're doing stuff in your garage and you don't have a bunch of friends to help you lift out a transmission that's in the rear of the car,
anything that goes wrong in the back half, even if it's $200, is gonna be a nightmare to replace. Because basically, to do anything to the torque tube, to do anything to the back, you're dropping the entire assembly out, which is, I promise you, not a fun thing to do in your garage without a lift, without anyone there. There will be cuss words, there will be throwing things. You're not gonna have fun. It's gonna be a bad time, I promise. But all the rest of the time, I mean, it's just, God, is this thing good. So, you know, you do have to just take a look at it and go, what am I doing with these cars? But in my opinion, if you pick either one of these cars that I have put so many miles on, you're gonna have fun. It's gonna be so much better than buying some boring car, and you're just get out there and do it. It's amazing. Just do it. It's great. You'll figure it out. It's gonna break. Things are gonna blow up. You're gonna think it's the end of the world, and it's gonna be running again. It's gonna be a beautiful day, and you're just gonna go, oh, I remember why I do this, and then you're gonna thank me.
All right, so we spent the last day and a half driving these cars through mountain roads. I gotta say, honestly, it almost makes it harder to make this decision. I've had the time of my life in both these cars. Really, the moral of the story for today is no matter which one you buy, you're gonna have a great time. Just get out there and do it. We are gonna take the Donnie part of this and make it a part 2, because I have a feeling after filming that, it's gonna break some community guidelines, and there's gonna be some upset people about that video, and it's gonna get taken down. So we're gonna make that a part 2. It should come out next Friday. So if you wanna see that one, just make sure you either save this video or kind of subscribe. That's up to you. I'm not, gonna push that on you. But really, both of these cars have just been an absolute blast. I can't believe both cars made it 2 hours there. A full day and a half of getting beat on, and then 2 hours back. I've had just the time of my life, and I always remember, a drive a day keeps a therapist away. Get out there, buy a car. Just have fun with it. Enjoy it. It's amazing. I mean, there's problems. You're gonna have a bad time, but it's amazing. Go out there, do it. Do it now.